Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered, why am I not further ahead? Why do I feel stuck, drained, or like life is passing me by? You're not broken, you're not lazy, and you're not doomed. The truth is, it's not the big failures that ruin your life. It's the small, silent habits you repeat every single day. The ones you don't even notice. The little compromises, the excuses, the moments you choose comfort over growth. Those tiny decisions don't just shape your days, they shape your destiny. And here's the scary part. Most people never wake up to it until it's too late. They wake up one morning and realize the dreams they once had are gone. Their potential wasted. Their energy drained. Not because they didn't want a better life, but because they allowed destructive habits to quietly sabotage them. But here's the good news. You don't have to be one of them. You don't have to live in regret. You can take back control starting today. Because once you identify the habits that are destroying your focus, your energy, your confidence, and your future, you can break them. You can replace them with habits that give you power, momentum, and purpose. So if you've ever felt like you're capable of more, but something invisible is holding you back, I want you to lean in right now. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to expose the 5 habits that are silently ruining your life. Once you see them, you'll never be able to unsee them. This could be the wake-up call you've been waiting for. Procrastination is one of those things we laugh about, we joke about, we even excuse as if it's harmless. Let me tell you something, it's not harmless. It is the silent assassin of dreams. It sneaks into your life disguised as rest, disguised as, I'll do it tomorrow, disguised as, I'll start when I feel ready. But you and I both know tomorrow turns into next week, and next week turns into next year. And before you know it, 5, 10, 20 years are gone. And what you're left with isn't just lost time, it's a life that never reached its full potential. Procrastination isn't about time management. If it were, you'd have fixed it already. Procrastination is about emotional management. It's about the stories you tell yourself to avoid discomfort. Because let's be real, most of the things you're putting off aren't hard, they're just uncomfortable. That workout isn't impossible, but it forces you to face your own excuses. That phone call isn't terrifying, but it forces you to risk rejection. That business idea isn't complicated, but it forces you to step into the unknown. And so you put it off, telling yourself you'll start when the stars align, when you have more time, the fear goes away. But here's the truth. Fear doesn't leave and time doesn't wait. Every time you procrastinate, you teach yourself something dangerous. You teach yourself that your word doesn't mean anything. You tell your brain, when I say I'll do something, I don't really have to follow through. And the more you repeat that, the weaker your self-trust becomes. Think about it. How powerful would your life be if you became the kind of person who did what they said they'd do? Every single time, you wouldn't just trust yourself, you'd build unshakable confidence. Because confidence doesn't come from motivation, it comes from evidence, and the evidence of your life right now is built on your habits. Procrastination robs you of momentum, and momentum is everything. Momentum is the invisible force that makes hard things feel easier, that takes small wins and stacks them into massive victories. But when you procrastinate, you cut momentum at the root. You stop before you start. Here's the thing about momentum. It's just as easy to build in the wrong direction as it is in the right one. Every time you procrastinate, you're building negative momentum. You're stacking proof that you can't follow through, that you'd rather wait than act, that comfort matters more than growth. And that kind of momentum creates a spiral downward. Suddenly the simple things feel heavy, the basic tasks feel overwhelming, and you convince yourself you're just not capable. Here's the secret: action kills procrastination faster than motivation ever will. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need the perfect plan. You need to take one step, just one, because that one step creates energy. That energy creates momentum. Momentum builds the life you're actually meant to live. Now, let's be real. Procrastination feels good in the short term. It's relief. It's escape. It's like eating junk food. You get the sugar rush, but then you feel the crash. You scroll for an hour on your phone instead of doing the work, and in the moment it feels like rest. But it's not rest. It's avoidance. And avoidance always creates more stress, more pressure, more guilt. You don't avoid the pain, you multiply it. That task you put off, it's still waiting for you tomorrow, only now it feels heavier, scarier, harder. The conversation you avoided, it didn't go away. It got more complicated, more emotional, more urgent, and deep down, you know this. That's why procrastination doesn't just waste your time, it drains your energy, because carrying the weight of what you're avoiding takes more from you than doing the actual thing. Think about the times you've finally done something you avoided for weeks. How long did it actually take? 10 minutes, an hour, and you sat there afterward thinking, why did I wait so long to do this? That's the trap. You suffered more from waiting than from doing. And if you're honest, that's the pattern that's been costing you years of your life. Now, here's the part most people don't realize is procrastination isn't just about tasks. It's about identity. Every time you procrastinate, you reinforce the belief that you're the kind of person who delays, who avoids, who doesn't follow through. And identity is powerful because once you believe something about yourself, you fight to prove it, right? Even if it's destroying you. If you believe you're a procrastinator, you'll keep procrastinating, not because you can't change, but because you've accepted it as who you are. The truth is, procrastination is not who you are. It's a habit you've practiced. And anything you've practiced, you can unpractice. So how do you break it? You don't break it by waiting to feel motivated. You don't break it by planning endlessly. You break it by conditioning yourself to take action in the moment you feel resistance. You retrain your brain to understand that discomfort isn't danger. It's the signal to act. The very moment you feel that pull to put something off, that's your cue to lean in. That's your trigger to take the first step, no matter how small, because once you start, your brain shifts. You move from avoidance to engagement. And suddenly the thing that felt impossible becomes manageable. Let me tell you something. When you start to break this habit, when you start to act instead of delay, you'll feel a new kind of power inside you. It's not just about finishing tasks. It's about reclaiming your life. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't wait for opportunities, but creates them. Who doesn't get stuck in fear, but uses fear as fuel. Who doesn't need to be pushed, but lives pulled by a vision greater than their excuses. I know some of you are sitting here thinking, but I've been procrastinating for years. I don't know if I can change. And that's exactly the thinking procrastination wants you to believe, that it's too late, that you're too far gone, that tomorrow might be a better day. But let me ask you this, if not now, when? If not you, who? If you don't draw a line in the sand today, when will you? Tomorrow. You've been saying tomorrow for years. Tomorrow is the thief that keeps stealing your life. Procrastination may have stolen your past, but it doesn't get to steal your future. The moment you decide that your word means something, that you will follow through no matter how you feel, matter what it costs, that's the moment your life changes. Not next week, not next month, but now. Because your future is being created in this moment by the decisions you make today. And if you can destroy the habit of procrastination, you will unlock a level of freedom, confidence, and power you've never experienced before. So the next time that little voice whispers, do it later. Remember this, it's not just about later, it's about your life. And your life is too valuable, too precious, too full of possibility to waste another second waiting. The time is now, always now. Excuses, we all know them, we've all used them, and for a moment, they feel like the perfect shield. They protect your ego, they soften the sting of failure. They give you something to point at other than yourself. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I didn't get the right opportunities. People don't support me. Born into the right family, excuses feel safe because they let you off the hook. But here's the truth. Excuses are the invisible chains that keep you locked in the same place year after year. The comfort blanket that makes mediocrity feel acceptable. And if you don't rip them away, they will quietly steal everything you're capable of becoming. Excuses are dangerous because they sound reasonable. They make sense. If you've got bills, if you're exhausted, if you've been through pain, if someone betrayed you, it's easy to point to those things and say, that's why I'm not where I want to be. But let's be honest, plenty of people had the same challenges, maybe worse. They still found a way to rise. So the difference isn't your circumstance. It's whether you choose excuses or responsibility. Excuses feed your pain. Responsibility feeds your power. The moment you choose to live in excuses, you give away control. You hand your life over to circumstances, to other people, to luck. You tell yourself, I'm not in charge of my results. And the second you do that, you're done, because life will never hand you success. Life rewards responsibility. Responsibility is about saying, even if it's not my fault, it's still my responsibility. That shift is where everything changes. Excuses are addictive because they protect your pride. They allow you to fail without admitting it. They give you a story you can repeat to yourself and others so you don't have to feel the sting of ownership. But that sting, the sting of saying, I fell short because of me, that's the very thing that can drive you to grow. Without that sting, you never change. You stay stuck, recycling the same stories until your entire life becomes one long excuse. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself a story about why you couldn't do something, only to realize later you actually could? Maybe you said you didn't have time, but then something urgent came up and suddenly you found time. Maybe you said you didn't have money, but when something you valued enough showed up, you made it happen. Maybe you said you weren't ready. Deep down, you knew readiness was never the issue, fear was. Excuses are rarely the truth. They're simply the most comfortable lie you can tell yourself in the moment. And let's talk about time for a second, because that's the most common excuse of all. I don't have time. That's not true. You have the same 24 hours every single person on this planet has. Time is not the problem. Priorities are. When you say you don't have time, you really mean is, it's not important enough to me right now. And that's fine if it's genuinely not important. But stop lying to yourself. Stop saying you want something badly while your excuses prove otherwise. Your calendar and your actions reveal your true priorities, not your words. When you live in excuses, you never face yourself. And if you never face yourself, you never grow. Growth begins the moment you stop running from responsibility and say, this is on me. My choices, my actions, my standards. If I don't like where I am, I'm the one who has to change it. That's not easy. It's not comfortable, but it's the only way. Excuses keep you in the passenger seat of your own life. Responsibility puts you back in the driver's seat. Now, I want you to picture this. Imagine you're at the end of your life looking back. Do you think you'll be proud of the excuses you made? Do you think you'll smile and say, I didn't go after my dreams because I was tired, because I was scared, because I didn't have enough time. No, you'll feel the weight of regret. You'll wish you had been braver, stronger, more responsible. Regret is heavier than any responsibility you could ever carry today. Excuses may feel light now, but they turn into a crushing weight later. Responsibility may feel heavy now, but it turns into freedom later. Here's the part people miss. When you drop excuses and take responsibility, you don't just change your results, you change your identity. You become someone who owns their life. You become someone people respect, someone others trust, someone you respect when you look in the mirror. Because deep down, you know when you're lying to yourself. And self-respect is built on honesty with yourself, not comfort. So how do you break the habit of excuses? You catch yourself in the story. You notice when you're saying, I can't, and challenge it with, I won't. Because the truth is, most of the time it's not, I can't, it's, I won't. And when you replace I can't with I won't, suddenly you face the reality. It's not about ability, it's about choice. And once you see that excuses lose their power, you stop blaming the economy, your boss, your parents, your past, your partner, and you start asking better questions. What can I do? What's my next move? How can I use this? Because there's always something you can do. There's always one step you can take. Responsibility doesn't mean controlling everything. It means controlling what you can. And when you do that consistently, your life transforms. The people who rise, the people who create extraordinary lives, they're not the ones with the easiest circumstances. They're the ones who take ownership no matter what. They use pain as fuel. They turn setbacks into setups. They stop waiting for someone to rescue them and realize they are the rescue. That choice is available to you right now if you're willing to drop the excuses and grab hold of your responsibility. Excuses feel like safety, but they're really a prison. Responsibility feels like a burden, but it's really freedom. The moment you stop making excuses and start owning your life is the moment you start living the life you were meant to live. The power is in your hands. It always has been. What you feed your mind and body becomes your destiny. Most people don't realize this because they think habits are just about what they do. But the truth is, everything you consume is shaping who you are becoming. What you eat, what you watch, what you listen to, who you follow, what you surround yourself with. Every input you allow in is planting a seed. And those seeds eventually grow into the thoughts you think, the emotions you feel, the choices you make, and ultimately, the life you live. If you feed your body with junk, energy collapses, your focus disappears, and your health declines. You know this. You can feel the difference in your body when you eat clean, when you hydrate, when you move, versus when you drown yourself in sugar, fast food, and chemicals. Gives you life. The other steals it from you slowly. But the body is only part of it. The even more dangerous part is what you feed your mind, because your mind is what determines your reality. Think about it. If all you do is consume negativity, gossip, and distraction, what do you expect your thoughts to be filled with? If you spend hours scrolling through other people's lives, comparing yourself, drowning in envy or doubt, is it any surprise that you feel empty and stuck? Your mind is not a garbage dump, but most people treat it like one. They fill it with cheap entertainment, endless noise, and low quality information, and then wonder why they can't focus, why they feel anxious, why they can't build the life they want. It's simple. You can't live a powerful life when you feed your mind with weak fuel. You have to understand your brain is a pattern-making machine. Whatever you feed it repeatedly, it begins to normalize. If you constantly feed it news that screams disaster, your brain starts to see the world as unsafe. If you constantly feed it stories of people failing or mocking success, your brain starts to believe that ambition is dangerous. If you feed it constant distraction, it learns that focus is impossible. And here's the scary part. Most people don't even notice it happening. They don't realize how much their daily inputs are conditioning them, shaping their beliefs, programming their identity. But the opposite is also true. If you feed your mind with strength, with ideas, with inspiration, with learning, your brain begins to expand. It starts to see possibilities instead of problems. It starts to crave growth instead of comfort. It starts to align with the future you want to create. It's the same with your body. When you give it real nutrition, when you move it, when you treat it as the engine that carries you through life, you feel alive again. And when your body and mind are fueled properly, your spirit wakes up. You begin to feel the kind of energy and clarity that makes you unstoppable. The question is, what are you feeding yourself daily? Not once in a while, not just when you feel like it, but consistently. Because consistency is what creates identity. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you are rehearsing the future. You're either rehearsing weakness by feeding yourself garbage, you're rehearsing greatness by feeding yourself strength. And it's not about being perfect. It's about raising your standards for what you allow in. Think about this. If someone tried to dump trash all over your living room, you'd stop them immediately. You wouldn't tolerate it for 1 second. But how many times do you allow people, media, or even your own habits to dump trash into your mind and body? You guard your house more fiercely than your future. That has to change. Because the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your inputs. Let's make it real. Imagine two people wake up tomorrow. The first one scrolls social media for an hour, fills their mind with comparison and noise. skips breakfast, drinks 3 cups of coffee, and rushes out the door late and stressed. The second one wakes up, moves their body, drinks water, takes 10 minutes to feed their mind with something inspiring or educational, eats something that fuels them, sets their intention for the day. Both people have the same 24 hours, but the trajectory of their day and eventually their life is radically different. That difference doesn't come from luck or talent. It comes from what they fed themselves at the start of the day. And it's not just about mornings, it's about every choice you make. The shows you binge, the conversations you entertain, the food you eat at night, podcasts you listen to on your commute, the voices you let in your head. These are not small choices. They are the training ground of your destiny. If you want more power, more clarity, more confidence, you have to stop feeding yourself weakness and start feeding yourself strength. The truth is, you already know what's lifting you and what's draining you. You can feel it. You know which foods make you feel alive and which ones make you sluggish. You know which people inspire you and which ones poison you. You know which content feeds your growth and which content keeps you stuck. The problem isn't knowledge. The problem is standards. You tolerate too much. You allow too much low quality input because it's easy. It's available. It gives you a hit of dopamine in the moment. But ease in the moment creates struggle in the long term. Discipline in the moment creates freedom in the long term. This is why you have to raise your standards for what you consume. You have to treat your mind and body like they are the most valuable assets you own. Because they are. Without them, nothing else matters. Success, wealth, relationships. None of it means anything if your energy is gone, if your clarity is gone, if your confidence is gone. And those things don't disappear overnight. They are eaten away slowly by what you've been consuming. So if you want to change your life, start by changing what you feed it, audit your inputs. Ask yourself, does this food give me energy or take it away? Does this content expand my thinking or shrink it? Does this environment pull me higher or drag me lower? Then make the hard choices, remove the junk. Replace it with strength. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. You'll miss the comfort of the easy distractions. But soon, your brain and body will adjust. What once felt like discipline will start to feel like freedom. Because here's the truth. You cannot live an extraordinary life on ordinary fuel. You can't expect to think big if you're constantly feeding your mind smallness. You can't expect to feel strong if you're constantly feeding your body weakness. You can't expect to grow if you're constantly feeding yourself comfort. What you feed grows. What you starve dies. Starve the negativity, the junk, the noise. Feed the strength, the clarity, the growth. You don't get the life you want by chance. You get it by design. And that design begins with the inputs you choose every single day. Stop feeding yourself weakness and start feeding yourself the fuel your future deserves. The people you surround yourself with are shaping your life in ways you can't even measure. Most of us like to think we're independent. We make our own choices that no one else has the power to influence us. But that's not true. Human beings are wired for connection. We absorb the language, the energy, the standards, and even the beliefs of the people closest to us. You notice it or not, your environment is programming you every single day. If you spend your time around people who complain all the time, you'll eventually start complaining more yourself. Your circle is filled with people who constantly talk about what's wrong, how unfair life is, or how nothing works out. Your brain begins to tune itself to the same frequency. It's not that you suddenly become weak. It's that negativity is contagious. It spreads through conversations, body language, and energy. And the danger is that over time, you start even questioning it. You start to believe it's just the way things are. But think about the opposite. Imagine being surrounded by people who dream bigger than you, who push harder, who expect more from themselves and from you. What happens then? You rise, you stretch, you expand your vision. Pulled upward simply because being around them demands more from you. That's the power of environment. You can either be dragged down without even realizing it, or you can be elevated beyond what you thought was possible. Here's the truth. No one is neutral. Every person in your life is either pulling you closer to your potential or further away from it. There is no middle ground. That friend who always convinces you to skip your goals, that relative who makes you feel small, that coworker who gossips and criticizes, that's not neutral. That's a slow poison. And the scary thing about poison is that it doesn't kill you instantly. It kills you over time. One conversation at a time, lowered standard at a time, one subtle compromise at a time. We tolerate toxic people because they're familiar, because it feels uncomfortable to let go, because we don't want to be alone. But ask yourself, what's worse? Standing alone for a while or surrounding yourself with people who are silently destroying your future? It takes courage to choose your circle wisely. It takes strength to distance yourself from people who won't change. But if you don't, you end up living their life instead of your own. And it's not just about removing the wrong people. It's about actively seeking the right ones. Because if you don't fill your environment with voices that lift you, voices that challenge you, voices that call out the best in you, then the empty space will be filled by the noise of the average. And average is the enemy of greatness. You need people in your life who won't let you settle. People who remind you of who you are when you forget. People who see your excuses for what they are and refuse to let you get away with them. People who don't just clap for your dreams, but push you to actually go after them. That's the kind of environment that changes you. Because when your standards slip, their standards pull you back up. When your belief wavers, their belief carries you. When your courage fades, their example reignites it. Look back at your life and you'll see the proof. The times you grew the most, achieved the most, became the strongest, chances are you weren't doing it alone. You had someone in your corner, or you were surrounded by a group that lifted you higher. That wasn't an accident. That was environment doing what it always does, shaping you. Here's the part most people miss. You don't just absorb your environment, you also become the environment for others. You're not just influenced, you're an influencer. Your energy, your words, your standards, they are either lifting the people around you or pulling them down. So the real question isn't just, who am I around, but also, who am I becoming for the people around me? If you want to attract better people into your circle, you have to raise your own standards first, because like mediocrity attracts mediocrity, growth attracts growth, strength attracts strength. That's why you can't afford to keep waiting for the right people to just show up in your life. You have to become the right person yourself. And when you do, when you start living with discipline, with energy, with purpose, the people who resonate with that will naturally gravitate toward you. The wrong ones will fall away, not because you cut them off, but because your energy no longer matches theirs. And the right ones will step in because you've created space for them. Some of you listening right now, you already know there are people in your life you need to let go of. You've been feeling it for months, maybe years. You know they're holding you back, but you've been holding on out of guilt, out of history, out of fear. And I get it, it's not easy to walk away. But what's the cost of staying? The cost of letting them shape your habits, your mindset, your standards. That cost is far greater than the discomfort of letting go. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying cut everyone out who isn't perfect. None of us are perfect. This isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Are the people around you moving forward, or are they pulling you backward? Do they encourage your growth, or do they resent it? Do they celebrate your wins? Do they secretly hope you'll fail so they don't feel left behind? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself. Because life is too short to spend it surrounded by people who make you smaller. Your circle should expand you, not shrink you. It should inspire you, not drain you. It should remind you of who you can become, not who you used to be. And if it doesn't, then you owe it to yourself to make a change. You cannot live an extraordinary life in an ordinary environment. The people around you are either your anchor or your wings. And if you want to fly, you have to choose your wings wisely. Comfort is one of the most seductive traps you will ever face in your life. It whispers to you, stay here, it's safe. Don't push too hard, don't risk too much, don't stretch yourself. And it feels good in the moment. Comfortable, familiar, easy. But comfort is the silent killer of growth. Addiction to comfort is what keeps people stuck in the same place year after year, wondering why nothing changes, why they feel empty, why they know deep down they're capable of more but can't seem to reach it. The truth is, feels like a friend, but it's an enemy disguised as safety. Think about the moments in your life when you grew the most, when you broke through, when you became stronger, more confident, more alive. Were those moments comfortable? Of course not. Hard, they were scary, they demanded something of you that you didn't even know you had. Growth never comes from what's easy. Growth only comes from challenge, and yet most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid challenge, trying to avoid discomfort, trying to build a life where everything feels certain, predictable, easy. And then they wonder why they're bored, unfulfilled, and restless. The problem is that comfort gives you quick rewards. It gives you instant gratification. Skip the workout, feels good in the moment. Sleep in, feels good in the moment. Put off that difficult conversation, feels good in the moment. Play it safe instead of taking the risk. Feels good in the moment. But those little moments of comfort stack up. Over time, they create a life of regret because comfort might feel good now, but it steals from your future. On the other hand, discomfort might feel painful now, but it pays you back for the rest of your life. Discomfort is where growth lies. Discomfort is where confidence is built. Discomfort is where breakthroughs happen. You don't build resilience when life is easy. You build resilience when life challenges you and you push through anyway. You don't build courage sitting on the couch. You build courage stepping into fear and realizing you survived. You don't build strength avoiding struggle. You build strength by walking straight into it and discovering you're capable of more than you thought. Comfort is addictive because it doesn't feel dangerous in the moment, doesn't destroy you instantly. It destroys you slowly, quietly, day after day of choosing easy over growth. And one day you wake up realizing you've lost your edge, you've lost your hunger, you've lost the spark that once made you feel alive. The worst part is you start to convince yourself that this is just how life is. But it's not life, it's the comfort zone that's killing you. There is nothing safe about staying comfortable. In fact, it's the most dangerous place to be because while you're sitting in comfort, the world is moving forward. Opportunities are passing you by. Other people are growing, evolving, pushing past their limits. And before long, you're not just standing still, you're falling behind. When you finally realize it, the gap between where you are and where you could have been feels impossible to cross. That's the real cost of comfort. But here's the good news. Discomfort is a choice. And just like comfort compounds into regret, discomfort compounds into greatness. Every time you step out of your comfort zone, even in small ways, you expand it. You stretch what you believe you're capable of. You prove to yourself that fear doesn't control you. That resistance doesn't define you, that you are bigger than the voice that says, stay safe. And the more you do that, the stronger you become. It doesn't have to be massive at first. It can start small, waking up earlier than you want to, having that tough conversation instead of avoiding it, doing the extra rep at the gym when your body screams no, speaking up when you feel nervous, taking the risk on that dream even when you don't feel ready. Those little acts of stepping into discomfort build the muscle of growth. And just like any muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it gets. Eventually, what once felt terrifying becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes routine. That's the beauty of growth. It changes not just your circumstances, but your identity. You start to become the kind of person who doesn't run from discomfort, but runs toward it. The kind of person who doesn't settle for easy, demands more from themselves. The kind of person who sees fear not as a stop sign, but as a green light saying, this is where I need to go. And when you become that person, life opens up to you in ways you can't even imagine right now, because comfort might feel good, but it never leads to fulfillment. True fulfillment comes from knowing you pushed yourself, knowing you gave your all, knowing you didn't let fear dictate your choices. Fulfillment comes from growth. Growth only happens when you step into discomfort. You don't get stronger by staying comfortable. You don't get more confident by staying comfortable. You don't build the life you dream of by staying comfortable. You have to be willing to leave the safe zone and step into the stretch zone, the place where you don't know the outcome, where it feels uncertain, where it feels scary. That's the place where you discover who you really are. So the next time you feel that pull toward comfort, that temptation to take the easy road, I want you to remember this. Comfort is not your friend. It's the enemy of your future. And every time you choose comfort, you are trading the life you want most for the life that feels easiest in the moment. Your destiny is not built in comfort. It's built in challenge, in courage, in pushing beyond the limits of what you think you can handle. If you're willing to step into that discomfort consistently, relentlessly, your life will transform in ways comfort could never give you. The future you want lives just outside your comfort zone. Discipline, it's not a word most people like to hear because it sounds rigid, it sounds restrictive, it sounds like you're cutting out freedom. But the truth is, the lack of discipline is what keeps people trapped, and discipline is what sets people free. Without standards, without structure, without a personal code that you live by every single day, life will pull you in every direction except the one you want to go. And the scary part is, you won't even realize it's happening because the drift is slow. You don't notice yourself lowering your standards day by day until one day you wake up realizing you're miles away from the person you wanted to become. Every successful person, every fulfilled person, every person who has built a life they're proud of, at the core of it all, they had discipline. They had the ability to do what they said they would do. Not just when it was easy, not just when it felt good, but when it was hard, when it was inconvenient, every part of them wanted to quit. That's the difference between people who create the life they want and people who just dream about it. Dreams without discipline turn into regret. Think about it. If you rely only on how you feel in the moment, you will almost always choose the path of least resistance. You'll choose to stay in bed instead of getting up early. You'll choose to scroll your phone instead of building your skills. You'll choose to put off that work instead of finishing it. You'll choose the quick hit of pleasure instead of the long-term fulfillment of progress. Feelings will betray you. They're inconsistent. They're driven by mood, by circumstance, by how much sleep you got, by what somebody said to you that day. If you let feelings run your life will be inconsistent at best and disappointing at worst. Discipline is what anchors you when feelings try to pull you off course. It's the commitment to your standards no matter what. It's saying, this is who I am. This is how I show up. This is non-negotiable. That's how real confidence is built. Confidence doesn't come from positive thinking. It comes from evidence. It comes from knowing you can trust yourself. Self-trust only comes from discipline. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your identity. Every time you break one, you weaken it. It's that simple. Most people are disciplined with other people, but not with themselves. They'll show up for work, they'll show up for friends, they'll show up for family. But when it comes to their own goals, their own dreams, their own standards, they let themselves off the hook. And that's why they never break through, because the standard they hold for themselves is weaker than the standard they hold for everyone else. But the truth is, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. If you keep letting yourself slide in one area, it bleeds into all areas. Discipline isn't about perfection, it's about alignment. When your actions align with your values consistently, you become unstoppable. The challenge is that discipline feels hard in the moment. It feels uncomfortable to push yourself when your body wants to stop. It feels tough to say no to things that everyone else is indulging in. It feels painful to delay gratification when instant gratification is right there. Here's the paradox. What feels hard now makes life easier later, and what feels easy now makes life harder later. Discipline is hard in the short term, but pays dividends forever. Lack of discipline is easy in the short term, but robs you for the rest of your life. Look at anyone you admire, anyone who's achieved something great, and you'll see discipline at the foundation. The athlete who trains when nobody's watching. The entrepreneur who keeps building even when they're exhausted. The parent who sets a standard for their kids by living it, not just preaching it. These people don't have more willpower than you. They don't have some magic gene. They've simply built the muscle of discipline. And just like any muscle, it grows stronger the more you use it. Discipline is freedom because it puts you in control. When you know you'll do what you said you'll do, no matter how you feel, you stop being a slave to circumstances. You stop being controlled by moods, temptations, or distractions. You gain power over yourself. And when you have power over yourself, no one else can take it from you. That's freedom. The truth is, every single day you're training yourself. The question is, what are you training? Are you training discipline or are you training weakness? Every time you hit snooze, you're training weakness. Every time you put off what you know you need to do, you're training weakness. Every time you cave into distraction, you're training weakness. But every time you follow through, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's hard, you're training discipline. And that training compounds. Over weeks, months, years, it becomes your identity. You stop just doing disciplined things, you become a disciplined person, and that's the key. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself forever. It's about becoming the kind of person who lives by standards naturally. At first, it's effort. At first, it's resistance. But over time, it becomes who you are. You don't have to force yourself to brush your teeth. You just do it. That's the power of discipline when it's ingrained. It becomes automatic. Some people think discipline means a lack of joy, a lack of spontaneity, a rigid life. But that's not discipline. That's control. Real discipline gives you more joy because you're not constantly weighed down by guilt, by procrastination, by regret. Real discipline gives you more energy because you're not wasting it on indecision. Real discipline gives you more freedom because you've already done the things that matter most, and now you get to enjoy the rewards. It's not about living a strict, joyless life. It's about building a foundation where you can actually enjoy life fully, because nothing feels better than being proud of yourself. Nothing feels better than looking in the mirror and knowing you didn't take the easy way out. Nothing feels better than knowing you can rely on yourself no matter what. If you want to change your life, stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop waiting until you feel ready. Build discipline. Build the ability to follow through whether you feel like it or not. Because the truth is, your feelings are fleeting, but your standards are forever. Discipline is not a punishment. It is the greatest gift you can give yourself. It's the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. And if you're willing to build it, if you're willing to live by it, there is nothing you cannot create, nothing you cannot achieve, nothing you cannot become. Your future depends on the standards you enforce today. So raise them and live by them.